Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thanks for joining us today for our webinar on Geo-Scale Five9s for MySQL. The topic is all around worldwide mobile roaming solutions and is presented by our founder and CEO, Eero Terikopi, who I will introduce to you now. Over to you, Eero.
Thank you, JJ. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eero Terikopi. I'm the founder and CEO of Continuent. And today's use case is quite interesting because it has some historic throwback to the technology that we used to offer by Continuent. And this is about the worldwide mobile roaming case. And when you are building a MySQL-based system that requires continuous operation, effectively telecommunication, Five9s level availability, and you want to distribute that geographically, like in this case, in US, Europe, and Asia Pacific, it becomes a kind of interesting challenge and something that we are very familiar with and quite well up to. Continuent is availability company. That's what we've been since day one, and we focus on business critical MySQL operation with the continuous operation, whether it's at a telecommunication company like this or software service or any other similar 24/7 company running on MySQL database. And this particular use case, I'd be also referring to Geo-Scale Galera because of the customer, in this case, Knowroaming, which is a part of the larger Telco group, was using Galera, but realized that they needed something else in order to provide the level of a service that they were planning to do on global level. And Knowroaming itself, it's a Canadian-based company. It is providing a significantly cost-effective roaming solution around 200 countries and territories around the world. They were using Galera as indicated, but then when we're thinking about this multi-site approach and being able to actually provide multi-primary approach, they realized that Galera was not just up to the task. We can come back to the reasons why that was the case. Nevertheless, they chose tungsten clustering solution, something that we've proven over the years to be effective, this type of deployments. Couple words of myself before we go and dive into this subject matter. You saw my background, it's a sailboat, I'm a sailor, and I like to kind of run a tight ship. I've been around for a while, 7 times serial entrepreneur, mainly in the software industry. I started my career at Apple Computer in mid-80s, and MySQL Marketplace came around 2000, somewhere around 2001, 2002, effectively from the early days of MySQL. And besides that, myself being a force behind Tungsten, one could call me as a godfather of Galera as well. This is because of the Galera and its team effectively used to work for Continuent back in days, 2004, 2006, when we used to have a solution called mCluster, which was quite nice product, but we realized that that's not the right direction we want to take the company, and I think we made the right call. And yes, I'm also Navy officer and a sailor. This is the place that I enjoy, and actually planning to go sailing this weekend on San Francisco Bay. That's where we are based. Although my team is geographically distributed as well around the world, West Coast, East Coast, Ireland, UK, France, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Russia. That's the kind of a nice coverage that we can give our customers from the support point of view, an excellent development team. So where does Continuent fit in? This is kind of the space. It's based on open source MySQL. It has this cloud computing element and it is about being able to do geographically scaling database as a service. We've been around early days, 2004, when the MySQL was just the early phases. Cloud computing didn't really exist at the time, but we realized that there was an opportunity to build a highly available MySQL database solution that can scale globally. And what also we made a right call was that it needs to be a platform agnostic. Hence, we could run on bare metal, it could be run on virtual environment, but also in any and all different cloud environments. Our customers, significant majority, are already running their deployments in AWS, Azure, or Google. Some 70% of our customers and clusters are in the cloud. Continuent is not the biggest company in this market space, and that's not what we aim, never. But what we do aim is us to be the best, whatever we choose to do. And obviously it is about the geographically scaling. MySQL for business critical deployment, that's what we are effectively going after. Knowroaming use case. So kind of question, why would Knowroaming come to Continuent in the first place? They had a Galera deployed, and then you'd ask a question about, was it availability? Was it about being able to build a disaster recovery solution for the application? Was it about the geographic scaling? Or was it the cost structure? Or all of the above? Like most of our customers, it really is all of the above. Although in Knowroaming case, the real challenge was initially geographic scaling. How to build a backend for some 200 geographically distributed region to provide the mobile roaming solution. And the way to do it is effectively provide a primary database close to customers, but yet keep them all in sync on the background. And then as any 24/7 company and telco company, obviously high availability is high on the list for the solution, as well as is the disaster recovery requirements. Because in order to be able to serve these customers, and mobile roaming is one of those applications that just can't have any downtime at any point. And then by tying all these things together, the cost always remains a factor and consideration. Anybody who has chosen to build solution on open source database, in this case MySQL, they are already cost conscious. But then there's more about than the database itself, how to build the infrastructure so that it effectively provides you a most cost-effective backend. About the Galera. Galera is one of those solutions that's almost like a dream come true. And I should know, because we built effectively Galera type of solution back in 2004. It was called M-Cluster, synchronous clustering. Through multi-master, it really should be called multi-primary today. Active local cluster, and with the synchronous replication, in tightly coupled, it presents really nice backend for the highly available MySQL application. And when it works like a dream. There's a lot of benefits that by building asynchronous replication solutions and providing a very high performance, not always, but typically local high availability solution. And it's relatively easy to deploy and manage when you have a single Galera cluster. But as any coin, there is a flip side. And to come to find out, and this is why we abandoned the synchronous clustering solution back in 2006 for the benefit of the tungsten cluster solution, which is built on asynchronous replication. When you try to build larger deployments based on Galera, just not one application, one database service, yet even if it's highly available, it's not quite enough. There is no multi-site active choice. There is effectively no DR. Yes, it's supposed to keep running and it's availability for the locally when it works. But if you have the whole site level outage, you are out of luck. Also, building a geographically scaling solution using synchronous replication is not really a go at all. The physics, the speed of light comes in an issue. Sending a two-phase commit across the high latency wide area network effectively brings the system down. If you want to do something, then you would have to introduce a asynchronous replication, but by doing that, you need to enable binary locking, which then impacts the cluster performance. And there's a host of other issues that there comes along. Obviously, there's a significant concerns around the write performance as well. When even if you have a multiple primaries in the synchronous cluster, you effectively end up updating one of the databases effectively. If you try to do all of them, you create all kind of issues that may cause rollbacks and ultimately degrade the performance. Galera does not have a proxy embedded as a part of the solution. Yes, you can introduce as a third-party proxy in front of the Galera cluster, but once again, it just adds the complexity of the solution. It's not necessarily fully tested and integrated similar to the way we do. And then last but not least, having available a 24/7 support with the minutes response times is critical for these business critical applications running hundreds of millions, in some cases billions of dollars of revenue. Unfortunately, that is not available for Galera solution. Excuse me. There's a little bit more detailed comparison and kind of grading of the various tungsten clustering and Galera cluster features. I will not go too detailed on this one, but let's skip through of these. They are related to availability, disaster recovery, performance, transparency, and recovery. None of them are working quite as well as Continuent Tungsten Cluster. All in all, there is no comparison with these solutions, especially when we are thinking about the geographically scaling systems. So, Knowroaming main challenge effectively was about the geographic scale. When it started, the operation started in initially Canada, servicing Canadian and US marketplace. Having a single cluster in US was enough. When actually starting promoting a solution in Europe and in Asia Pacific and trying to then tie them together, become realization that the whatever approach that they had taken at the time was not adequate. And how we actually resolve the Knowroaming challenge, it's about initially availability of each local region. Knowroaming has 3 AWS cloud instances that they are running currently, these clusters. One is in US East in Virginia, other one is in Europe in Paris, and the third one is in Asia Pacific region in Singapore. And each of these regions have their own local clusters, which has the 3 nodes. There's a primary, 2 replicas, and then in front of this is the highly intelligent tungsten proxy to manage the traffic. And this proxy is really the kind of key component of the availability. When and if there is any event that requires primary out of a commission, whether that's for the failure or the maintenance, proxy is the one that manages the traffic and holds the traffic, but doesn't lose the actual connections to the applications. And in the back end, Tungsten Manager is orchestrating a cluster communicating to Tungsten Proxy and make the necessary changes on the backend cluster while the whole data service continues to be available for the application. So you're effectively providing a continuous data service, and downtime is in seconds instead of in minutes or hours, as many other alternative solutions may offer. But this was not enough. Having a locally available cluster service in specific region was great. Building a solution that actually brings all these different regions together and being in sync all the time. So if you have a US-based cluster which is servicing traffic for the US and Canada gets an update, we need to be able to replicate that data on the other clusters as well, and whether that's in Europe or in Asia Pacific. And this happens by doing all of the communication is asynchronous. All of these sites are truly active. Any of them can take the traffic any given moment. And a tungsten connector, we call tungsten proxy also connector, is the one that guides the traffic. Tungsten connector is not only locally aware, it's also globally aware, so that if we would end up losing one of the regions, application servers can find the other connectors and guide the traffic one of the remaining data centers. And this can happen automated fashion without any significant or no downtime. This is an example of how Knowroaming manages its clusters. We have effectively a graphical user interface that presents all of these different regions, and within the regions, obviously, we have individual database instances, and also because this is a three-site active case, we need to also manage automatically all of the replication links between different sites. This becomes a pretty complex, we like to say sophisticated, pretty fast. And being able to do this and manage and orchestrate this type of a backend is quite a significant challenge. We've been working on these solutions almost 20 years. So we know we have got this right, and we have our customers who are running today, in some cases, tens of tungsten clusters and actually cases that we have hundreds of tungsten clusters deployed. So we know this is a well-working and proven solution. And so it is for the Knowroaming. Let's take a look at an active environment. This is the effectively 9-node tungsten cluster running in AWS environment. This is obviously not the Knowroaming's production environment, but it's effectively identical with that. Just that we want to be able to build this solution for our own needs, so we can easier and better support our customers. So in this case, for example, let's say that we end up losing one of the primary databases. Let's go terminal and do this kind of a mimic. And I'll take this, and you can mimic a failure, stopping MySQL server, and see what happens. Right now, we see that the MySQL server was failed. Our Tungsten manager realizes that the database one is out of commission. It seeks and finds the database that is the closest to the replication position, lets it run to the point that the database one was, promotes that as a new primary, connects to local database 2, to provide the replication services locally. But not only that, also connects to other regions in Asia Pacific and Europe. And all of this happens, as you see, in matter of seconds. It still shows that we have a error status in the US East, but during this whole process, Asia Pacific, Europe, we're both providing a full service level, the applications, and also the US cluster was providing partial service for the US-based and Canadian-based customers. It only just kind of lost one database from the cluster, but the remaining databases were providing a connectivity and service through the Tungsten proxy. And just to kind of demonstrate how easy it also to manage, so that if we conclude that this database failure was quote unquote fluke, we can just bring it back on the cluster with single command recover. And in this case, what it does is it starts the MySQL database again. It applies any and all transactions that has taken place since this database came down. And then it introduces back in the cluster at the point that, let's put this up, auto refresh actually on, so we can see activity levels of what's going on in the cluster. And then when the database one has caught up fully, the other databases within this local cluster, it will be introduced back in the cluster and providing effectively services as a replica, effectively providing the read traffic. And as you can see, we are fully back online. Everything is good. Nothing needed to be done on the database level. And then last thing what we could do is to kind of also demonstrate how easy it would be change the roles within a cluster. This is handy when we think about doing, for example, zero downtime maintenance operation. Typically, it happens that the replicas are going to get brought down first, so we could basically shunt them and then upgrade them, whether it's the operating system, database version, schema, whatever update is needed. And then when is the upgrade has been completed, we can reintroduce them back in the cluster. And in this case, then we can do what we call switch. We promote, sorry, not getting it correctly. So I'm activating here. So I'm now switching in this US-based cluster database one to become a new primary database, and then demoting DB3 as a replica within the cluster. And once again, orchestration of this change is pretty significant. First, they're switching the role within a cluster while still maintaining the full traffic with the application. And then while doing that, also making automatic changes with the replication streams between the two different active sites in Europe and Asia Pacific. You can imagine how many steps this would require if done manually. And by default, those kind of changes would automatically require downtime in most, if not any other solution specifically, and especially with the Galera. This type of approach would not be possible at all. Once again, we have completed the process and we are back up and running in full position. But keep in mind, while these changes were taking place, all the traffic with the client applications were working without any hitch. Let's go back to presentation. So, Knowroaming, when we're thinking about the building these backends, is that we concluded that, yeah, as with any telco, customer availability is high on the list, being able to cover from disasters. It's high on the list as well. In this particular case, the geo-scaling was must been able to provide a backplane that was effectively one and the same for all the users worldwide, was crucial at reasonable cost. One of the things that we did not mention yet, but that this tends to become the real issue after the deployment. While we have a great software, the real question is that what is and what kind of support the entity can offer for the solutions they have created. In our case, we have some of the best MySQL replication clustering engineers on our team. And what's more remarkable, if we take the past 2 years, the average response time for any and all urgent requests related to our clusters has been less than 3 minutes. When you are thinking about the business critical application and the revenue stream attached to that application, having an expert team available with that amazing speed is a really, really great benefit for our customers. Continuing products, let's go over, because this specifically use case is around tungsten clustering. Tungsten clustering itself, as we discussed about, it is about the continuous MySQL operation. Being able to maintain a system without any downtime is a significant benefit. Being able to distribute the workloads geographically, we can build active, passive, and active clusters, like in this use case. One can run this in any and all clouds. We can run even in a hybrid cloud environment, and this comes handy if you have currently on-premises deployment and you are transitioning in the cloud. We can build a backend solution that allows you to run these parallel, and when you're ready to switch cloud only, you can do that once again without any downtime. And then clustering also includes significant additional benefits with the intelligent proxy and its capability for the read-write splitting. Important is also to keep in mind the support for MySQL. For MySQL, meaning that it's any and all MySQL versions. It includes the MariaDB, it includes Percona server. So you can use all the different versions and variables of MySQL. And we do not require any application change to offer the services what we do. There are obviously some recommendation and best practices that we do recommend our customers to change the application at some cases, but that is not a requirement per se. And a little bit on more detailed level, all of this, once again, we highlight our support as the #1 feature of our software. You may find it remarkable, but we do not. Because we do realize that no matter how good anybody's software is, there's always going to be cases that require attention. And most of these cases are related to environment. There may be some network-related issues in the customer's require environment. There could be some hardware-related issues. There could be some software version-related issues. And we need to be able to support them in any and all those cases. Our software itself is remarkable stable. Obviously, any and all software requires some bug fixing and updates, but having available with effectively immediate response makes a huge difference. Also, the fact that we are a commercial solution, we have to be mindful in open source MySQL marketplace that our pricing needs to match the needs and realities of the open source mindset. And we have approached this by providing a cost structure that effectively is non-linear, and the bigger systems you are, the closer the zero, the additional database servers come. This includes the software support is obviously the different questions depending on the complexity and size of the deployment. But all in all, when you look at this kind of a solution that we offer, which is a complete, tightly integrated, fully tested, highly supported solution, the actual reduction on the DPA time and resource you require significantly lowers the overall cost of your database backplane and backend. So when you look at total cost of ownership point of view, you come to find out that continuous solution actually is not that expensive after all. Obviously, other real key elements, this is the software level feature functionality said. It is about the continuous operation, availability, recovery from any disaster, the ability to be able to do maintenance without any downtime, and you can do this kind of either within site level or cross site level, all of these operations, and still providing continuous data service backend. We have already discussed about being able to geographically scale, and this is, once again, you can do load balancing on read operations. You can do that on locally and globally, and you can distribute the data either active passive or active way across the data centers in US. Some of the biggest deployments of ours have currently up to 5 connected tungsten clusters in various corners of the US. And some of the really big ones, they may be just kind of providing an individual data services locally on different parts of the world. They don't need to be connected, so they can be independent clusters or they can be connected clusters. The fact that we can run in different environments makes it easy to transition and migrate from one area to another, and you can mix and match these environments so that you are not tied in any specific cloud provider. And this gives you a significant edge on the price negotiation on the compute instance. So the ability to be able to have a real credible threat taking workload from one environment to other makes a huge difference when you are discussing about the price on the compute instance. And you can do this, once again, seamlessly while application is up and running, make this transition at relative ease. Intelligent proxy, this is one of the secret sauces of the continuous solution tungsten proxy. We also call it tungsten connector for historical reasons. But this is really kind of the one that connects these clusters together, and they are locally and globally aware, and they can actually have a significant intelligence and different load balancing algorithm deployed. And we can also do some query inspection on fly and impact the traffic flow also with that way. One of the things that we have not discussed about too significantly yet is the tungsten replicator. Tungsten replicator is the core element, and it's the homogeneous MySQL replication engine, and this is the one that introduced the global transaction IDs way before then they become a reality on the MySQL own replication, and they are far more advanced even today. We'll come back to the tungsten replication a little bit later, so in more detail. And then last but not least, the fact that we do support all the MySQL versions and variables makes a big difference as well for the solution. Tungsten replicator, as discussed, it is a MySQL homogeneous replication engine, but it's more. It is actually a MySQL to practically any target heterogeneous solution. Our customers use this replicating from tungsten clusters into analytical tools like a Redshift or columnar database like Vertica. We have appliers for Aurora, Hadoop, Kafka, and many more database backends. You can build different types of topologies, fan in, fan out. It has a extensive filtering capability. You can basically program yourself. And this comes handy when you, for example, when you replicate from a MySQL instance into Oracle database, because you have to change the data types on the fly. So that, for example, we have a filter that takes existing MySQL stream and applies that to Oracle database. And same thing happens with all of these targets, that some modification on fly may be required in order to be able to apply them on the target database. Tungsten replication as Tungsten cluster both are available also as an AMI in Amazon Marketplace. And you can basically kick tires there if you want with our trial. You already saw Tungsten dashboard. You can easily manage our solutions using graphical user interface. We do not sell this as a separate solution. It's available. We naturally offer a command line interface. We have an extensive API for our solutions. Those who want to have a more graphical view of the world, like myself, it makes it truly easy to use Tungsten dashboard and manage the relatively complex database backend, like in this Knowroaming use case, when we have 3 active database clusters around the world. Once again, Tungsten support is available free of charge, those who prefer this type of a management tool. Question for the participants, and we are not using polling today, but if you are interested on replying, please either send it to sales@continuent.com or then use the chat as embedded at the Zoom webinar form. So the question for you, are you actively looking for availability solution today? If yes, let us know. Maybe you have something in place, but you are not quite happy with that and you would like to learn more about our solution. We are happy to discuss with you at your convenience, obviously. If you have a solution and you are happy with it, great. Then maybe there is no follow-on step, but obviously we would like to have an opportunity to kind of compare the notes and see if there's something that we can still improve, whether it's actually operationally something, or maybe there's a cost element that we can be actually more effective than whatever you currently have. And then if this is not something for now, just in the future, that's great as well. We have a lot of tools on our website. We can continue to educate you, and we are also happy to have a chat with you. And if this is just kind of a background information, that's also good. Let us know what your thoughts are. Just recapping this presentation, Continuent, we've been around since 2004. We intend to be around. We have an expert team, some of the best MySQL engineers, focusing data replication, database connectivity, and database clusters. That's what we do. And when you look at our support team, that's equally good, if not better. We have guys who have an extensive large-scale MySQL DBA experience, or maybe they were site reliability engineers on some of the larger software as a services entities. So you really get to talk directly, not a higher level person, rather than someone with the extensive experience about the MySQL databases in general and Tungsten specifically. And whenever you contact, you can expect us to be available within a minute. As stated, our average response time has been over the past 2 years, amazing, less than 3 minutes. Something that we challenge anyone in MySQL marketplace to be. I doubt anybody can. We have a lot of marquee customers. Many of them have been with us years. Actually, today, October 28, 2020, we are celebrating 10th anniversary of Marketo. Marketo came our customer 10 years ago. Initial deployment was some 4 clusters. They were relatively small entity at the time, catering a few customers of theirs, less than 10 million in revenue. Today, they are part of Adobe. Were acquired by Adobe almost $5 billion 2 years ago. And they are operating some 130 Tungsten clusters, catering some of the biggest marketing analytics customers in the world, if not the biggest. So this is really large databases, high volume databases, and have been around with us for some time. I'm sure you can recognize a number of other great customers and names: Adobe, Riot Games, VMware, Vonage, Carmen, host and others. This is just a subsegment of our customer base. And today we have deployed thousands of tungsten clusters, and we are safeguarding billions of dollars of combined revenue for this number of these customers. Our customers do stick with us, and average actually is close to the 8 years today. And we expect when a new customer joins us that they will be with us 5 to 8 years, many of over 10 years. So this is a long-term investment, and we intend to kind of be around and help them. Our customer satisfaction last go around was also amazing, 100%. So there's no single complaint. Obviously, there are things that we can do better, and we intend to do better and continue to do better, so that we are still not happy ourselves. But the fact that our customers are happy with us is great, and that we can demonstrate this happiness with the almost equally high renewal rate. There are times some of our customers get acquired, and they may choose to use something else because of whatever purchasing company chooses to deploy there. Or in some of the cases, our customers also do fail. If there is no market, whatever offering they have, unfortunately, that's the case, and that's typically how we end up losing customers. We have not lost competitively to any competing solution during the past 5 years. So that's pretty amazing as well. A little bit of a summary of Continuent. Our customers are predominantly software as a service providers. Some 70% of our customers are software service, and then we round it up with some e-commerce customers, financial services customers, telco customers, and some online gaming customers. So these are typically have this 24/7 365 requirement. We do also have some enterprise customers. We have small customers, we have very large customers. So we can basically provide solution and equal service level regardless of the size of our customers. That's how we approach. We only offer one service level. It's 24/7 service, and with the amazing skill set and amazing response times by our team, so that you can trust us to be there regardless of what kind of application, what size company you are. And while many of our customers are already running these deployments in the cloud, obviously cloud is in the future for us as well. We want to improve our solution. Today, the deployment is still somewhat manual. We want to automate that. Today, cluster management is via graphical user interface, but we want to expand that capability and be part of the cloud offering. Obviously, we can improve and extend the monitoring capabilities of our databases, not on the single database level, but also cluster level. And we want to provide this as a service, so you can build. We don't necessarily offer this as a database, managed database as a service, similar to some cloud vendor providers are, but you can effectively build a database as a service for your internal needs, and we can obviously provide and support that for you. So in many ways, we already do provide the database as a service today, but it will be even better years to come. Quick questions, JJ. Any questions that may have come up during the presentation?
Yeah, thanks, Eero. There is one question here because you talked about Galera earlier, and there's a Galera user here, and so they're wondering what would be involved if they were to transition over to a tungsten clustering solution.
Yeah, we have done a number of Galera to tungsten cluster migration. It's remarkably easy. Galera cluster in many ways acts and behaves like a single MySQL instance. So what we would do is that we would first establish that we built the cluster, tungsten cluster, and then we would establish a replication connection from Galera to tungsten cluster, and then when the tungsten cluster is effectively same level than Galera is, and we basically, when we have introduced the tungsten proxy, all the new incoming traffic would be guided through the proxy into tungsten cluster, and basically we can switch over that. So it's we've done a number of times this, so we can do this at relative ease, no significant change on actually operationally for the migration. Obviously, it would be kind of significant improvement for the customer going forward when using tungsten cluster.
Great, thanks, Eero. If there are other questions, feel free to use the Q&A section of your control panel to ask them now. There was, so we do have a second question though for now, which is on the tungsten proxy, because this person didn't realize we had a proxy, Eero. And if you wouldn't mind just recapitulating a bit, doing a recap, on our proxy and how, it might be different to others.
Yeah, tungsten proxy has this high-level intelligence, as indicated, that it's a wonderful tool because it can do this at the inquiries of the SQL traffic, and also that make the decision based on for example, if there are hints on the SQL traffic, that we can guide it either primary database or replica, and also with the different geographic region. But the real kicker comes at the tungsten proxy and tungsten manager working together, because they basically have the view of the underlying database infrastructure. So manager knows which physical database is the primary, which ones are the replicas. It knows the state of each of these databases. For example, that if one of the replicas is there's a significant replication lag, is that the latency increases, we can stop routing the traffic on that particular replica for a while in order to let it catch up. And this is something that the manager and the proxy are communicating between each other. And then when the replica reaches a certain level of the latency and not too far behind anymore, then we can release once again the retraffic on that particular database. That's just an example. Other things is effectively things like when and if there's database failure, we need to do a automatic failover. This is when a manager communicates the proxy again, and proxy halts the traffic. We are not losing any connection to the application server in meantime. And while the manager orchestrates the database role changes, and then it communicates back to the proxy, and then again opens up the full traffic, and once again without any disconnects. So it is truly that the proxy and manager working in concert to providing these services. And then we obviously tie this up with the tungsten replicator, which kind of rounds up the whole cluster solution.
Great, great, thanks, Eero. I don't see any other questions for now. So I don't know if you have any closing words, Eero, you might want to use.
Sure, yeah, thank you everybody. It was a pleasure to have you at this webinar today. This is the number 8 out of the 9 use case webinars that we have been running, and we will run one more in 2 weeks' time from here. So that if you are interested about our solution, then there will be other similar and also different use cases that you may be interested in, and take a look, go on our website. And we have a pretty extensive tungsten clustering and replicator training available on our website as well. So that if you're interested in making deeper dive, so feel free. You should find that the content there quite educational. It is not about marketing, it's more about the hardcore technical information about it. That's what you like to do. So thank you, everybody. And maybe see you in 2 weeks. Bye. Bye now.